Howdy folks, Nathan here with a 2020 Mazda CX-9. I know, this is TFL Off-Road. What am I doing with this? I'm pushing a button. That's right, I am pushing a button for a new system that Mazda has installed in this vehicle, which should assist me getting up Tombstone Hill, because without it, I don't think I'd make it. Here we go. I'm gonna put this in first gear, but otherwise I haven't touched anything yet with the traction control system, or as they like to call it, the off-road traction assist. And yes, I'm going up easy. The hard one might be too much of a challenge. Remember, this thing has limited ground clearance. I've got a Copia tires, which are not meant for off-roading. Well, that was a big bust. I was expecting it to lose traction at least in one spot, and it just did for a second or two. And no, I don't have the system activated yet. Full disclosure on Mazda's all-wheel drive system. They have what's called predictive all-wheel drive. Works with checking the weather. So in other words, temperature, climate, whether or not the windshield wipers are on. It's a really good system for a regular all-wheel drive vehicle. Not a lot of changes to the 2020 Mazda CX-9. Part of that has to do with the fact that it's already a pretty damn good combination. Now, we've driven these before, so it has the same engine transmission setup, 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, 6-speed automatic transmission, all-wheel drive. So it has 250 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. And the best part is that torque comes in at 2,000 RPM. Actually, if they were to lift this damn thing and make it so it had more than an ant's height in terms of ground clearance, this actually would be pretty good off-road with the right tires. One final thing to keep in mind, that this vehicle does start at around $35,000. That's for front-wheel drive. This one is around $48,000, but it is also the top of the line with all the stuff. You may have noticed a little bit of slippage going downhill. There's no hill descent control, so even though it has the off-road assist button, I've looked all over the place. I can't find hill descent, and you know what? That is completely okay with me. I'm not a big fan of that system unless you're in a really crazy situation and you're not too sure about your off-roading ability. But with that being said, this is a 4,400 pound car basically, and going down a loose dirt hill, one that's a little challenging, yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a clencher from time to time, and that's okay, because as long as you have faith that the ABS will eventually kick in and stop you from sliding ridiculously, you're going to be okay. On road, the CX-9 is one of our favorite 3-row crossover SUVs. Part of the reason why is because Mazda's done everything they can to make it handle as good as it can for a vehicle in this class. It outguns German vehicles. I kid you not. And part of that has to do with their G-vectoring system and their iActive all-wheel drive system and everything that they've shoved in there in order to make this a more rewarding vehicle. Driving through the hills getting here, this is one of the best handling vehicles in its class. What about up here in the mountains? Well, we've already driven it and bounced around a bunch of dirt roads, and that's pretty much the maximum that you should expect for a vehicle like this. That and snow, of course. Mazda has a sports-tuned suspension, so you're not gonna have a lot of flex, right? That means you're gonna have one of these tires lift. It's almost inevitable, and that's on basic terrain, minor terrain, something that most trucks would laugh at. Okay, so this is what Mazda did. They have a system in here that does two things. One, unlike shutting off traction control, it still has a little bit of traction control going to it. So if this wheel is up in the air and spinning, the brakes will be applied automatically, and it'll stop this wheel from spinning. Then it'll channel more power to the wheel that has traction, a lot more power than the regular all-wheel drive system would allow. So I'm gonna hit this hill because I had no luck on the other hills. The system worked really good. This one looks like it's gonna be a bit of a challenge. The whole point here is brake traction, hopefully, lift the tire, and then we'll trigger the system up. Okay, so what's happening is my left front wheel is lifting and then my right wheel is lifting. So that's the problem. Here's the solution. I just hit the button. Okay, we'll see if it gets me out of trouble. I can hear the traction control kicking, or the ABS kicking in. Victory! Yeah, it worked. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. It sent more torque to the wheel that had traction, and it stopped the wheels from spinning that had no traction or very little traction. Precisely what it was supposed to do. And it's very similar to other systems that are out there in other all-wheel drive vehicles that have a little bit more off-road brio going on. So, is it something that you can use to bounce off boulders? Not exactly, but it can get you out of trouble. This is one of the most competitive classes of all vehicles next to pickup trucks. It's kind of surprising because I know a lot of you off-roaders are like, yeah, okay, so what? It's still a crossover, and you're right. But it does have that new bump in off-roadability, which is something to be said for Mazda, right? So what does it compete with? What doesn't it compete with? The Nissan Pathfinder, the Toyota Highlander, the Honda Pilot. These are all vehicles that just sell ridiculous amounts. They all have 3 rows. They're all front-wheel drive bias with an all-wheel drive system of some sort. And some of them are more capable than others. Really, if there's an Achilles heel to this Mazda in this terrain, it's its height, approach and departure angles, and of course its tires. And that's nothing against Mazda. They never built this to be an off-roader. They just built this new system to get you out of trouble. And there you have it. A vehicle that is able to get over obstacles that a vehicle in its class would have a really hard time doing. Yes, you have to hit a button, but I kind of like that. I like the ability to be able to choose, now's the time for me to go, oh crap, hit a button, get me out of here, right? Because you never know when you're gonna be in that type of situation. So Mazda, well done, so far. Now the next thing is the Rocky Mountains. We're gonna hit some boulders. I'm just kidding. For the Fast Lane Off-Road, this is Nathan. I'll see you next time.